Hello, good afternoon. How are you doing today? I'm doing pretty good. Maureen Sky, Silver, Senior, Chatty, Sky. That's me. Coming at you. You, that's right, my viewer, my subscriber. Hopefully my new subscriber, right? But anyway, so whatever you do, I thank you. Hey, you guys. So I thought, okay, what am I going to do today in regard to a video? Well, in my first marriage, I truly believe I was living with a narcissist. Now, I know I was. I mean, therapists pretty much told me that too. So anyway, we'll talk a little bit about that because I did other videos in regard to this, and one can go back and look at those. And there's a few, and they're good, and good, I believe. And I tell some of the stories that, really hit me hard in my youth with this person. But I can always talk more. There's always more to share. And I'm 28 years. Yeah, you can imagine I've got some stories. So anyway, I'm just going to talk. Not much is scripted. I have a few notes, but overall, I'll just talk and tell my feelings, what it was like for me and my children growing up and living with this narcissist, okay? All right, so I married at age 20, very young, kind of fresh out of high school at 18, and, let's see, got engaged Christmas prior, and then we were married that next August of 73. Excuse me. Nose wants to run out here in this room. It's an old work room. There's sand down underneath the cellar, and I think that gets my sinuses going. But anyway, back to the subject. So, and he was 4 years older than me. He was pretty much fresh out of college, and I had just graduated high school. And there was no college bound journey ahead of me or anything. That was it. To graduate high school was a big deal in my family. College wasn't something we talked about at the dinner table because there was never any money. It was just getting you through high school and out the door. So, and for my ex-husband's family, he was the only one of 4 children who did go to college. He was the oldest, though, and the mother, more or less, his mother put a lot of emphasis and money towards that endeavor for him. I have to say, I don't think it really panned off. But anyway, so he was fresh out of college, the University of Massachusetts, and he earned a Bachelor of Science degree, and his major was physical education, and I think his minor was science, I think. Yeah. So here I am, just graduating from high school in 71, and I'm marrying this person in 73. Nice looking fella, nice looking family, the whole family, very nice looking, Hollywood worthy, good looks, as my family, all of my relatives on my mother's side and father's, Hollywood worthy, good looks. Not bragging, just telling it like it is. Good looking people on both sides. So, we ended up, married, and several years later we had my son, and then a few years after he was born, we had my daughter, and they're 2 beautiful children as well, looks and personalities. So I'm grateful for them. But getting back to what I lived with this person, and when you're young, you don't realize, if I was to go back and do all that over, yeah, there's a lot of things I do differently. But when you're 20 years old, you're not thinking about these things. I probably would have done a long list. I would have written down what I'm looking for. But if one was to ask me at 20 years old, I didn't know. I just, we were pretty much told at 18 from my mother, who was tired, and she raised all of us very close in age, and she was ready to just be on her own and be done with, raising kids and stuff. So we were pretty much told, by 18, 19, 20, she wanted to break up housekeeping. She sat down and told us that one day. And, so you were kind of forced to kind of start thinking about that between the 18 and 20 years old, what I was going to do and work and live and all that. So, yeah, getting a husband was probably, very much on my mind. So anyway, oh God, I'm the youngest of four, like I talk about. And so we started dating in the late 60s, early 70s. Like I said, graduated high school in 71, married in 73. And then we rented an apartment actually from his parents in their house. Oh my God, what a nightmare that was. But we did that for about a year. And then we left that apartment. It was upstairs. And we went into a studio apartment just a few blocks away from where we were living in Greenfield, Massachusetts. And it was like a high-rise, and studio being, it was one room. And it had a little, opening up the doors, those folding doors, and then there's your kitchen area with a sink and a little stove and refrigerator underneath and a few cabinets up above, and that was your kitchen. And then you could just close the doors when you didn't want to see that. And then it was a good sized room, and you had your round table over in one corner, and big windows going out to a little balcony with iron railings looking out onto the street. And that was a nice little area to sit in, get some air. And of course, the big windows, you had to have the long drapes. And let's see, bathroom and your couch. You had one of those fold out beds. That was your bed at night. So that's how we lived. And it was a nice apartment. It was a fairly newer built building. It wasn't real old. So they were nice apartments, and the laundry was down in a laundry room downstairs, and you took an elevator to get up there, and you had a little storage. And so we lived there for, I want to say, another year or so. And then we did buy our own home. But the home needed a lot of work. It was actually small, like a little cottage, more or less. There's a lake, what they call Lake Pleasant, not far from there, a few miles east. And where people would come, and kind of like a landmark at the time, Lake Pleasant. So we weren't that far from that area. So this house reminded me a lot of those little lake houses that were on the lake. But over the years, and my husband being a teacher, but he also left that profession early on through our marriage and decided to have his own business, and he got his carpenter's license to contractor to be able to go and bid on carpentry work, like build you a deck or repair something in your home. And get the job at a good bid and this and that. So he did that for a number of years. So anyway, and there's so much with all of that I could go on and talk about. But when I say I lived with a narcissist, it was more that I was the more quiet, shy back then, and it really took a lot for me to have a voice and to speak up. And I believe he and his family intimidated me a lot back then, so I kept a lot to myself. I didn't speak out, not until really more of the last 6 or 7 years of our marriage that I actually learned to get a voice in my marriage and talk back and say what I was feeling. And that took a lot from me and a lot of therapy to do that. But I did get there. And now I let it fly. But anyway, so with that, he was the more dominating one anyway, and he kind of knew too, that from the personality that I showed and conveyed at that time, that it was more or less all about him and that marriage. He was a big procrastinator. He would start a lot of jobs all around the house and not finish them. And so me and my children lived in an unfinished house for all of our marriage, except for the first couple years when we rented. So it was a continuous, spiral of, he took this little home that we had, and by the time I left the marriage after 28 years, and it kind of shocked him because he didn't see it coming, but the kids were all grown up and gone. I knew I didn't want to do this anymore, and he gave me nothing to go on. So but by the time I left that house, it was a big dinosaur of a building with many unfinished areas to it. It was really an eyesore and very much a procrastinator's project, if you want to call it. And oh my God, unreal what I went through, unreal. But and also he was a big talker. Like I remember being at a family member had deceased, and we're at their funeral, and he's there with his suit on, and it was another relative that called it to my attention much later after the funeral. But he was there in the receiving line, with me, like you do, and meeting people and having them, express sympathy for your loss and everything. And he's there talking about his work with somebody, and I'm just sitting there, and another person, relative, good friend of mine, is overhearing his conversation. And it was later at a coffee visit I had with her that she's like, what the heck was that all about? He's talking and with his suit on like this big, astute businessman, like he's got it all going on. And he didn't. His business was failing. He was screwing up that business left and right. He had no problem taking your money and, signing you up. You'd sign him up because he was the lowest bidder of, say, 3 different people you talked to and came and looked at what you want done and gave you a bid. He'd be the lowest bidder. So, you're going to go with him. Maybe you didn't check references, or maybe he got 1 or 2 good references because he could do the work. He could do a good job, but his problem was he took on too many of everybody's job, and he's only one person. At one time, he did have a couple workers, but he screwed that up too. But anyway, I talked about that in other videos, but he was one to push people away. He didn't cherish a friendship. He really didn't. He didn't see the value in that. It was okay to badmouth or be rude to someone, so obviously they're not going to stick around for too long and put up with that kind of behavior. So anyway, but he was one of these who would take your money 1/3 down, gonna build you a deck, let's say, so you give him several hundred for supplies. He goes and gets the supplies, brings them to your place of business, your home, wherever he's going to be doing this work, leaves off the supplies, and then you don't see him for 2 or 3 months. So you're calling me. Oh, I smoothed more people over and said, oh, he's coming. You know, that's when I still had faith in all of that. At the end, I'm telling you, you don't want to hire this man. I truly did. And you can say what you want, but that's what I did at the end, because I knew they were going to end up, and I would tell them, not unless you want to end up in a courtroom, you know, a small claims court or something, because he's going to take your money and you're not going to see him for months. Why? Because he didn't know enough to just do one job, get it done, get paid, and then go on to the next one. No, he had to have 7 or 8 of them rolling around all at once. Scatterbrain. Obviously, you're not going to finish a job in a timely manner. You're not going to get good reviews. You're not going to have a pleased customer. Not really. And they're calling me. And I'm getting a little sick and tired of it as well. Having to smooth you over and tell you, oh, hang tight, he's coming. He's finishing up this one. He's over there doing that one. My God, he didn't know how to run a business. And he wouldn't listen to any input or, you know, ideas or thoughts that I might have for the business. Oh, he wasn't going to listen to me. And me being a woman, oh, we clearly aren't going there. He wasn't going to do that. Oh, no. Oh, no, 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 no. No. And I can remember shortly after the one incident, shortly after my son was born, and you know, you have that baby weight. So I had gained quite a, you know, about 40 pounds maybe with that pregnancy. I was all baby, though, a big boy. He was almost 9 pounds when he was born. So I'm, you know, working hard trying to lose that. And I did lose a good 2/3 of it at this time. But I still had maybe about 12 pounds to go, 12, 15 more to go. But I remember he let me, you know, because I had to have permission to go buy an outfit. So I bought a pair of pants and a paisley print shirt to match, blouse. And they were kind of a cocoa brown color pants. And, oh my. Oh, I just sold something. Oh. And, a shirt that, like I said, collared regular shirt, long sleeve, and it had that color cocoa brown little paisley, but with a pretty blue, like a denim blue paisley and cream, and it was a nice print, nice looking outfit together. Well, I put it on at home, and I stood in front of him. I came out of the bedroom, and he was sitting in the living room to show him this outfit. And he's looking. I said, well, what do you think? You know, do you like it? And, well, it's all right. You know, if you lose another 15 pounds, you might look better. I mean, and I was very sensitive to my weight, because weight was always an issue, a factor growing up. Like I said in other videos, I was the chubby one. So, you know, to hear that from somebody I cared so deeply about and wanted to please was very hurtful. I'll never forget that. And there's more. There was so much more of that. He was just a piece of work to live with, and would do things very selfish. I can remember another incident where we didn't get to go out much. We just didn't. Money was tight. So when we did get an invite somewhere to somebody's party or anniversary or something going on, it was kind of a treat. And so we were at his friend's, who was in our wedding party, one of the men. We were at his anniversary party that his parents threw, and he was a Polish family, and so there was a lot of yummy, good food, and it was at a lodge, like a moose lodge or an elk's lodge, one of those places where the family rented for the occasion. They rented that space, so the kitchen was wonderful, food in there, the smells were awesome, and you got fed well. So I wore this dress. I can remember it was even a gold yellowish kind of velvety dress, and it had a belt to it, and I had jewelry. I looked nice because there was going to be a band there, and I knew, it'd be nice to go out and have a nice meal, and not have the kids with you, and have a little break from our day-to-day, routine, and go out with him a little dressed up and be with people, our friends, and have a nice meal and dance a few dances and just have fun, good conversation. Well, we weren't there more than 15, 20 minutes. Well, I take that back. We were there long enough to eat. So we did have a good meal. And like I said, this person who the family was throwing the party for, they were very close. And so they did a lot for one another. So the mother, and this was a high school friend of his, who the party was being thrown for, and his wife. So the mother, the Polish mother, comes over, and nice bunch of people, a lot of fun. And she's talking to him, and she's standing behind him with her hand on his shoulder. And the band's playing now, and she goes, "Why don't you dance?" Because I'm showing, like, I want to get up and dance, And she says to him, "Why don't you get up and dance with your wife?" And now he's in his mind, I can see it. He's getting ready to go. He don't want to hang around. He had what he wanted, and he wants to go. He don't care about me and what I want to do that day. Oh, no, never. So he says something like, "Oh, I'm getting a headache." And this is another thing. He'd always come up with the headache bit or something, so we would have to leave and shut everything down, go home. So I was never really having a good time. So the music's playing. I would like to dance. And for me to even ask him to dance would be a big deal, and I'd get a cold shoulder anyway, generally. I mean, once in a while he'd get up and dance with me, but again, it had to be on his terms. Everything always had to be on his terms. So when she said that to him, asked him, "Why don't you get up and dance with your wife?" And he's saying, I don't know, I got a headache. I think we'll be leaving soon or something, and I don't feel like it or something. And she said to him, I'll never forget, "Well, maybe your wife would like to dance." In other words, stop being so narcissistic, you damn fool. But no, she got it. I loved it. I had a big smile on my face because she got him. She knew what a selfish, narcissistic person he was. And to this day, he's still like that. And matter of fact, he's got somewhat of a strained relationship overall with the kids. It's not the best. Could be better. And that's much of his doing, I believe. I'll say it. And I don't believe that he's watching this channel, even if he is. Right about now, doesn't matter now, does it? Love it. But anyway, so it was very hard, very difficult. His mother, he wasn't married to me. He was married to his mother. And there are so many things that she did that interfered in the marriage that caused a lot of heartache and argument and poor conversation and bitterness and just unnecessary, totally unnecessary stuff that I endured, out of her mouth and her actions. And like I said, if Mama wanted something, his mama, he'd stop the clock and go do that. If I wanted something, I had to wait, or it just didn't happen, or who the heck are you to be asking me to do that? Oh, yeah, so much stuff, people, and very hurtful. I could go on and go back and watch many of my other videos, but it was always, and another incident was, always a kind of a party pooper when he wanted to be. But, if he was there to have a good time, it's almost like he couldn't. He had to fake it. I remember being at my brother's wedding, and we're all there. It's up in Springfield, Vermont. Nice little wedding. Again, it's at one of those, a hall, like a moose lodge, but it wasn't a moose lodge. His father was one of those, I can think of Shriners Club, one of those, yeah. But anyway, it was upstairs, and my son was a DJ over the years, so he was just starting out. So he actually set up, and he was the little DJ that day. So that was fun, and it was the cutest little wedding. My mother had just passed that December, so this was, I want to say, that spring. And anyway, so we're all there, and we've eaten, and now the music's playing, so it's time to get up and dance. And he wasn't by any means drunk. We weren't big drinkers anyway or any of that. He wasn't, but he faked it like he was. And he gets up there and he's dancing with the mother, and he's making a complete ASS out of himself, I think. And there's nothing wrong with letting your hair down and having a good time. I'm all for that. But it was so out of character that I could tell he was faking it, like forcing it to have a good time. I mean, it's like he never learned how to really just be himself. And I honestly think to this day, he is still trying to find out. He still doesn't know who he is. I will say that to my dying day. He still does not know who he is or how he's supposed to act. Because to look at him, if you were to meet him, he has long hair and a ponytail. Well, there's nothing wrong with that. No. However, one would think, he's a certain way. That look, like maybe an artist, or he's written books, so he calls himself a writer, but I have yet to really read his work, so I suppose I shouldn't judge. However, I did scan the first book, and I couldn't read it. It was a bunch of garbled muck in my mind, and I heard that from others too. However, I did hear that his second or third story book wasn't too bad. Okay, we'll give him that. But anyway, getting back to that wedding, he was just faking his behavior. I know. I was married to him. I lived with him. I know he was just faking it that day and making that, and everyone's thinking, he's so much fun, and he's just that. No, he's not. And I wish that he was, but that was faked. What he was showing and giving off that day was pure fake, and because he does not know who he is. And I believe Mama and Daddy, those two personalities of their, that they did not do him any justice as far as teaching him. And the man has no empathy. Like I said, he does not value friendships. He pushed everybody away from him, even his children. In a matter of fact, he, Anyway, it's difficult to watch too, as the mother. Even though we're divorced, it's very difficult to watch what my kids have had to go through. Yeah, but I know what the feelings, because I went through it too. I got, made to feel like I was second best, not good enough. I got this a lot, like this. I got the finger pointed at me a lot. Oh yeah, you this and you that, and you better fix this, and you got to figure out how to fix it. That is your problem. Whenever I did complain about the way he was, or try to talk to him about how we as a couple could make something better, make it better, make the situation better communication. Bill paying was one. He never worked with me. I never knew what bills were getting paid, and half the time they weren't, and we were getting shut-off notices. Oh, I lived with so much baloney, honest to God, folks. And he was a school teacher, and I was a secretary in the same school system. So we were making decent money. There was no need for the way we had to live, the way we were living, because of him and his ways. Yeah. Unfinished house with tar paper falling off and blowing in the wind because it needed siding that never got put up. He starts building a gazebo out back, supposedly for me. He builds a beautiful floor of this gazebo, and the frames, like toothpicks, and the frame, like a cathedral, like this. He built that out of wood, and so it's all open. Never finished it. This went on for years. The neighbors are wondering what the heck's going on over there. Then they'd see him start something new, and then they'd question my kids who went by the house one day. Well, why is your father doing that when he hasn't finished the gazebo? Yeah, well, try living with that. Yeah. So anyway, yeah, rudeness. I got rudeness. Rude. To the point where, you really wanted to smack him some days, and I came this close. Just a rude son of a gun. And after a while, you're a young person, but as you grow, and, I stayed because I believed in the marriage, and, but I got nothing. And near the end, looking, the last 6, 7, 8 years, I got literally nothing from the man. Nothing to go on. No birthday cards. No Mother's Day flowers or recognition as a mother from him. Just crazy stuff. The way he had the house looking, and things that he left that were unsafe to live there, actually, that we all had to live with, exposed wires that were arcing, and things that he knew better. He had a contractor's license, and, we just had to skirt around things living there. It was awful. It was awful. Yeah. And no hope, no communication as to, well, when is that going to get done? And I would offer, and it wasn't because anything I'm doing, folks, and I will say that. I went to work every day. I, brought home that paycheck. I rarely was out of work. My attendance was very good. And I kept the same job for over 20 years. Oh, yes. Kept the house as clean as I could, given my situation. Made decent meals. Always had a decent hot meal on the table for supper time. I did all the things right. And I was a good wife and attentive and all of that. And I got crapped on by him and his mother and his father at times. I will say it. I did. And it was very, very unwarranted. They're gone now, so I can sit and talk about it at ease. But what I went through, and there's more hurtful stuff. Oh my God! But it's in some of my other videos, so you'll see it. Just go back and watch some. Any video where it talks about the title, the word narcissist, it's one of those where you can learn more about what I endured, because it was not fun. And I did go to therapy, and I did end up leaving that marriage of 28 years, and I never looked back, and my kids know, they know, and they don't hold that against me either. They know I endured as much as I could, and for my own sake, at the age of 48, I got out of that. Yeah. But anyway, I did go thrifting the other day, and I bought a couple things that I'm working here to get on. Can opener, brass. It's got numbers. And I paid, let's see, it's signed too. Yeah. Can't make out what it says. NK or I don't know. But anyway, people like things with eagles. That's why I picked it up. And being a nice vintage one, this should sell. I paid $3, and I don't know. I'll have to check comps on that. I love anything rooster. My kitchen is all roosters. I paid $3 for this, but I think white was, oh no, I guess I did pay $3 for that, and 50 cents for this one. But look how cute these cute little spoons are. Measuring type or just collectible. I think it's so cute. These will go on, because I do eBay too, so. Kind of cute. Oh, what's it say? 1 teaspoon. Oh, it's a yeah. I like that. And then I just bought myself some earrings. I like wearing earrings. And these were all, I couldn't pass them up, $1 a pair. These are all for me. And I didn't have to get permission from anybody to spend a few dollars. How about that one? I did back then. Even buying a bottle of nail polish was a big deal, or a pair of nylons, because back then, I had to have nylons a lot, because I had to wear a lot of skirts and different things, for work. And even that was an issue with him. Oh, yeah. And if I did spend any money, he made darn sure he got his butt down to Wilson's department store, one of the finer stores in town at the time. It was like a landmark in town. It no longer exists, but Wilson's. He took his butt to Wilson's, and he bought a whole new expensive outfit. I could have bought 10 times over what I picked up. Oh, he made sure I knew that too. Oh, yes. That was by Mommy's suggestion. Oh, yeah. Yeah. These are pretty. Yeah. Those. Look at these. I love these. I can't wait to wear these. I almost put these on today, but I got to clean them. I like to make sure I take an alcohol thick cotton ball and go over all the pieces. Aren't they pretty? Yeah, just pretty color. I will be wearing those. Look at these. I love the chandelier. And given my longer hair, I can get away with it. I love those. All for $1. And the stones are all there. These are pretty. Yeah. We're gonna have steak in my air fryer steaks. I'm gonna pound them down, and I'm gonna do rosemary and garlic butter kind of thing. That'd be good. Sweet potatoes. Yeah, bread. I really like these too. I always need black, right? And then I love my red, and this time I got a lot of red shirts I can wear. T-shirt type of. Those are pretty. They're just tin. But like I said, I'll clean them up. And we always need another little pearly pair, which I've gone through so many over the years. I will wear those. Be pretty. Anyway, that's what I did. That's what I wanted to talk about today, was the narcissist that I lived with. And he's still pushing people's buttons. I think I'm going to be going and cooking that steak pretty soon and making those sweet potatoes. And I got some nice, like rye bread. That'll be good with it. And see what else I can conjure up for a vegetable. But I wanted to come to you today. It's my Sunday video. And in a few days or soon, I'll do another one. So that'll come out midweek. And I'm not sure what my topic will be. Maybe more about some of the stuff I endured with a narcissist. I don't know. But there's always something to talk about, right? And until we meet again, I want to thank you. If you're new here, welcome. I hope I've given you enough to think about subscribing or hanging with me or coming back. And as we, do this together, right? Because without you, it wouldn't be fun for me. I like doing this. I really do. And I like it even more when you're with me. So come on in. Let me know where you're from. I love that. And I love your comments. The last few people who commented, I love that. Keep them coming. It just warms my heart. And it's so much fun. I look forward to coming at you and getting those comments. I really do. Thank you. Thank you so much. You don't know how much I appreciate it. I truly do. Thank you now. And until we meet again, I certainly hope the universe provides. I truly do. Thank you now. Bye-bye.